Hello, everyone, and welcome on to Branded. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes and beyond the brand. I am super excited to bring Kris Jones back into the Branded family. We're doing another podcast with Kris, and if you don't remember her from the first episode, she is the founder of Red Door Stories and StoryBrand Guide with 20 plus years of high-level industry experience. Kris is passionate about helping coaches and service providers replace all of their marketing with a single story so they can get more clients, grow their business, and focus on what they do best. Kris, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Sarah. I'm really, really thrilled to be here.
And honestly, Kris and I, we were chatting before we started recording this episode, and we are so in sync and like aligned with the things that we're thinking about for our business, the things we're thinking about for our clients. And we really thought that this would be a really fantastic episode to bring to you guys, especially with the history of episodes I've been doing in 2025. This just fits the mold so beautifully. And on top of all of that, Kris has a really exciting development happening in her business. She is launching her second book, From Click to Client, how to easily create a story-driven website that turns visitors into clients. And today you guys are getting a sneak peek, kind of deep dive into some of Kris's favorite parts of this book.
Yay!
I know, it's so good. And honestly, this is one of the things I wish that I saw more of before I go and buy a book or buy the Audible. How incredible is it? You get to talk to the author and really deep dive into all the juicy bits of the book. So yes. We're going to dive right in. The first thing that I want to really talk about with what you've got going on is once you have that story-driven website. So let me just preface, if you guys haven't seen the first podcast with Kris, go watch that. I can link it in the show notes here, but we talk a lot about getting that story-driven website and that story-driven brand for your business. And so this episode is going to pair really nicely with that one. But yeah, let's start there. Once you have that story-driven website, how do you then get all the eyeballs on it that you need?
Exactly, right? If you have a website, but no one's coming to visit the website, it's definitely not going to be working for you. And what happens, I would say, what happens for most self-employed people is they feel like, okay, I've got to have a website. I have a business. I have to have a website. I've got to get something up quickly so, I can point people to it. And so typically we will hop on Squarespace or hop on Wix and pull up a template, fill in the blanks, and kind of follow their lead. And I'm a big fan of cloud builders like Squarespace and Wix because they make it so easy. But the challenge with the templates that they provide are these builders are in the business of brochure websites. They're not in the business of client converting websites. So if
That's
you use, and they can make a beautiful website, right? If you follow their template, sure, it looks pretty, but is it effective? And what's the point of paying that monthly fee if it's not going to effectively convert you clients? And the expense of that is really less about the monthly fee and how many potential clients are coming to the website and then moving along that you don't know about and ending up finding somebody else. So when you really take the time to make your website a story-driven website, it totally changes the way your website works for you. The idea is really to have a website that becomes your best salesperson. So you don't have to be the one selling all the time. I mean, number one, people don't love selling. I would most people actually hate selling. And so we want to be able to do that less. And what's beautiful is that our website can really do that heavy lifting for us. So if the website is converting people, when they book a call with us, they're either already sold or they're so excited about working with us. Those sales calls are really a lot of fun because they're already pre-sold and then they're just like, okay, what's it going to look like to work together? Yeah. So that's the importance of having a story-driven website. Once you have one, then there are ways to really ensure that you get eyeballs on that website. And there are ways that you can really amplify its effectiveness. The first way is really treating your website as the hub of your business. Your website, if you imagine like the visual of the solar system, and our sun is the central part of our universe, right? So um so really all your marketing efforts or your marketing activities um really circle around that sun and point people back to it. So I like to tell my clients, you do not have to be everywhere and be doing everything. If you're not an Instagram person, don't worry about Instagram. Like, what are you drawn to? Are you drawn to having your own podcast? Are you drawn to being a podcast guest, which is
Mhm.
really how I amplified my business, was really being a guest. I love that. That feels effortless for me. So that was one of the things that I picked. And then the other thing that I picked was email marketing, just emailing my list and nurturing those relationships. So I say there are lots of planets that you can delve into as far as marketing activities. You don't have to pick all of them. Pick one or two that you really enjoy, and then put your energy into those, and always point people back to the website, because the website is really the central hub of your business. So it just takes the pressure off, because you can just show up, you can share your message, you can be present, and then you just know you point people to the website and it's going to do that heavy lifting for you.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that it's a shift in perspective that is really important for business owners in this particular time,
Yeah.
because so many business owners they rely so heavily on social media. Awesome. It does a lot of the lifting for you. It's a great place to have conversations. It's a great place to showcase things, but it should never be it shouldn't be the sun of your business, right? As
Right.
Kris says, like
Yes.
Instagram should not be the sun that your business revolves around, because
Right.
if it is, you potentially could be in some deep water if something goes a little
Yeah.
sideways.
Yeah.
We don't, we don't own these platforms. They're free for us to use. So use them as a free marketing tool. Use them as the asset that they are.
Mhm.
But I am so with you.
Mhm.
Getting a website that reflects your business, that does all that heavy lifting for you.
Mhm.
And yeah, it can feel a little overwhelming, I think, in the very beginning to do all of that work. But if you, just like anything in life, if it's worth doing, it's worth putting effort into. And
Yes.
that work on the front end of having those conversations with somebody, or even if you're just talking with ChatGPT, right? Like having those moments to reveal, okay, what's the story of my brand? How can I then translate it into the website? And
Mhm.
you're so right when you say it removes so much pressure when
Mhm.
you are showing up live, when you're doing, static content, whatever it is. You don't have to be thinking, okay, where do I need to send people now?
Mhm.
Where's the thing that has the thing that I
Mhm.
promised? It's all in one place and you don't have to think about it. Like, ugh,
Right.
it really does
Right.
make life so much
Y
easier.
Yeah, I really think of your business like a house, right? If you don't wanna build your house on without a foundation, and when you do rely on Instagram and social, which I'm in agreement with you, I think they're all, really can be really important ways to grow our business, and very effective if we enjoy that. When it doesn't work
Exactly.
is when you don't enjoy it and you feel like you have to do it. And so I like to let people off the hook. You do not have to do social media if you don't like it. It's not an obligation. But as you shared, you don't own the platform. They could turn you off in a matter of an hour,
Mhm.
flip of a switch. All of a sudden, no more Instagram or TikTok, and then what do you do, right? And so when you take the time to really build a solid foundation for your business, it involves um, taking the time and putting the energy into making sure that that foundation is going to support you and that it's strong and that you own it and it can't be taken away from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm such a firm believer of the importance of a website because I was very much on the fence before I really started getting into this work a few years ago, where I was like, yeah, sure, a website's antiquated because I wasn't really visiting them. I wasn't running my business at that time. But they really aren't antiquated because anytime you get an email that sells you into something, it's taking you to a website, a funnel page, whatever. It's almost never taking you to a social media platform, right? Like
Right.
social media for me, the way I see it, that's maybe like the door you walk through, but the house you're in is the website, right? Like
Yeah.
it's very much that.
Sometimes I talk about it like, you've built this house, right? And it's got a strong foundation. If you've built this house and then you want to have a housewarming party. And so you send out invitations to everybody to join you for this celebration. And the social media is a lot like those invitations, right?
Yeah.
It's reaching all your people. It's inviting them to come to your house. And so the last thing you want to do is send out all those invitations, and people RSVP, they show up at the door, and then they get there and the house is half done and it's under construction.
Yeah.
You don't want that to happen.
No, not at all.
Right.
All right. So I mean, I love, we're so in sync. It's crazy how we really are thinking along the same lines of this. And I think it is such a conversation that just it's ready to be had for a lot of these business owners, because I do think in this age of social media and as we, the autonomy of a business, I think, is what is so important for people right now, and really understanding that like they can stand on their own 2 feet and have a strong business without having to rely on all of these other bits and pieces. And so honestly, for me, that's what's so valuable about having this podcast, about having these conversations, is really just reminding people of their own empowerment, right? Their own power of how much they can take control of their business.
Yes.
So the next part of the conversation I want to have, and this one's probably going to be a little juicy. I want to talk about having that social proof, having that testimonial. This is something I'll like vulnerable moment. I don't do well enough for my own business. It's something that is on my mind as improvement project number one for this year. But I know that you have a really fantastic, like, finger on the pulse of how to do this really well. And so I want to ask you, how important is it to have that proof of your work, and how can you like really bring it all together and get it onto your site in a way that helps it work?
I love that you're calling it proof, because truly that's what it is. People talk about testimonials and case studies and all that stuff. It's just proof. Like that's how we need our brains to be thinking of that. And when potential clients come to your website, there is nothing more powerful that you can do than to show proof that not only are you the expert at this, but you have helped other people get the results that your potential clients are really craving. Like, what can be more powerful than having proof on your website that you can do this, right? And so people believe what other people say about you more than they believe what you say about you. And that's the other reason this proof is so effective. But there are a lot of challenges around getting it, which is probably why like you've put it on the back burner. Most entrepreneurs put this on the back burner. There's always like another fire to put out or task to address. And this part of it falls on the bottom of the to-do list. And even when we remember to do it, right? You think of it and you're like, okay, I should email a client and get their feedback because I know they loved working with me and a lot of wonderful changes happen for them. I'd love to get their feedback on it. So we email them and say, would you mind like sharing a few words about what it was like to work with me. And your client gets that. And number one, they're like, of course, right? I loved Sarah. I loved working with Sarah. I'd love to give her a review. And I have to say, I've been on the receiving end of this, so I know exactly what it feels like to get that request and have such good intentions around it, and then have that get lost in my inbox and I never reply with the testimonial. And so then that puts us in an awkward situation because you don't want to remind me to give
Hey,
you
by
a
the way, go say something
testimonial.
nice about me when you have a minute.
Just checking in. Any nice words about me? And so it creates this awkward um, energy around like, okay, well, maybe they didn't want to give me a review, and I don't want to pressure them to give me a testimonial if they don't want to. And then essentially it disappears into the ethers, and you don't get a testimonial. Or what happens often too is just you don't get around to asking for a testimonial. The other thing that happens is they give you a testimonial, but it's 3 paragraphs long. And so you're like, okay, this is amazing. And they talk about, oh, Sarah Glenn, she's so smart and she's so much fun. We really clicked. And I thank you. I can't thank you enough. But those testimonials don't really speak to the transformation that you provide, right? They rave about how great you are. Well, of course you're great. I mean, people aren't going to make decisions to work with you based on if you're great or not. They're going to make a decision to work with you based on if you can provide a transformation for them that they're looking for. And so I have an email template that I share with my clients, and it's essentially an email. It says, hey, would you be willing to answer a few questions? And I break it down so it's not this big ask of like, will you write me a testimonial? It's like, can you answer 3 or 4 questions? And they're very short. And it says, this should not take you more than 2 or 3 minutes. And then you ask them 3 or 4 short questions. They reply back to you answering those questions, and then you merge those answers together into one narrative that really communicates the struggle that they were having before they worked with you and what it was like to work with you, and then the ultimately the benefit or the success that they got to experience as a result of working with you. And so those kind of 3 buckets right there really communicate the shortest story ever told, which is just really the transformation that a client happens from struggle to success and how you do that for your clients. So it just allows you to share testimonials on your website that are concise. If they're not concise, no one will read them. If the font is too small, no one will read them. If they're on a slider, no one will read them. And in fact, that's even worse because people might get halfway through them and then the slider moves and then they haven't finished. And that's a frustrating kind of experience to have on your website. If people are at your website and they feel frustrated, that's like unconsciously that shows them that working with you is going to be frustrating. And so we just want everything to flow and be easy and present that proof, because we have it. I mean, we have the proof. We all have clients that we've worked with that are thrilled with the result that they've gotten. And it just couldn't be more important to have that on your website.
I think, honestly, that's the piece of this that I have struggled with that I'm so glad that you mentioned, because it's exactly the answer that I've been looking for. And the change I need to make in getting that proof for myself is outlining for the person, because I can ask all day long, hey, would you mind doing a testimonial? And like you said, everyone will say yes.
Yeah.
But the next thing that tends to happen is they go, well, what do you want me to say?
Right.
And I'm like, well, it's coming from you.
Right.
And that's honestly been it's been the issue that hasn't created that
Mhm.
proof, hasn't
Mhm.
created those testimonials of, I get these text messages and voice memos saying how amazing I am, but I really need to craft a way of making that narrative, like you said, and piecing these things together. And so
Mhm.
now I know that that's room for improvement in my own business, that I can start to really um, become a little bit more systemized with getting the proof of my work rather than just
Mhm.
flying by the seat of my pants and,
Mhm.
smiling at a really kind text message. I can really get
Yeah.
much more intentional about it.
Mhm.
And like I said, that's one of my business goals for this year. And this conversation is just happening at the perfect time. I love it. On the
Good.
topic of testimonials,
Mhm.
because this is a question I get too. Well, would you prefer me write something or do you want me to record myself?
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
What's your take on
Yeah,
that?
it's so good. Before we dive into that, I wanted to share, I'm so glad you brought that up about like you hear wonderful things from your clients just from day to day, right? But what do you do with that? And what I often do, because I'm always my brain is always thinking like testimonial, like end goal testimonial. And so I have that kind of filter going all the time. So if they're sharing with me what they've been struggling with, like I file that in my brain. And then if they have wonderful things to say about the experience of what's happened for them, I file that in my brain. Or like you said, you have it on a voice text or Vox or whatever, like you can capture that information. And what I will do often is I'll compile that information into a testimonial for them based on words that they shared with me.
Yeah.
So I might cobble it together from a couple of different text messages or from what I remember from that initial call of where they were before we worked together. Then I'll write a 2 to 3 sentence testimonial and say, "Hey Jamie, here are a few things that you shared with me while we worked together, and I'm wondering if I can use this as a testimonial on my website. Does this feel aligned with what your experience was? And if not, feel free to tweak it and edit it
Hmm.
and reply back to me with your changes." And so you're doing the heavy lifting, right? It's
Right.
based on things they've shared with you and insights that you've had. But you're doing the work for them, but it's also really authentic because it's based on what they've shared with you.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
that's a fantastic way to do it. I need to
Yeah.
get a better system in place of like where I store these messages.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely top of mind.
Yeah. I mean, even if you kept like what is Google's note taking thing again? Is it Keep? Is it?
Oh yeah, Google Keep is something I've seen it.
Yeah.
One of my clients, I use it for images, but I suppose you could
Yeah.
put
I
all
mean, you
sorts of
could
things
just
there.
have like one that you just dump anytime you get
Yeah,
a compliment, you just dump it in there. And then when the time is
that's
right,
smart. I'll have to look at
yeah,
Keep and see what it does. All sorts of
yeah.
tools out there.
I know that, well, whatever note taking tool, there's like Notion and you could honestly just have a Google Doc called like,
Yeah.
client
Hmm.
compliments. So as far as video testimonials go, versus written, they're both incredibly powerful tools. I would say, you know, the the easiest ones to get are often the written ones, just because people sometimes don't feel comfortable on camera, or
Yeah.
especially if you're like, hey, can you give me a video testimonial? Yeah, people don't know what to say, and then they're recording themselves. Like, I don't even like doing that. I'm like on camera a fair amount. And so what I like to do with my clients, well, number one, I'll say video testimonials are like, you can quote me on this, a million times more powerful than a written
Yeah.
testimonial. They're both really effective, but no, video is so powerful because it's just more believable, and also people can relate. you can hear the voice, right?
Mhm.
You can see the person, and so you can resonate with them more easily, and it just becomes more believable.
Yeah.
Um, and you can also repurpose video testimonials and written ones, right? But you can reuse that stuff in your email newsletter or in your social media, right? You can, they're little workhorses that work for you. So it does pay to put a little time and energy
Mhm.
into them. The same email template that I have with the 4 questions that I ask my clients to kind of pull out that transformation, I've built in a system into my process where when I finish working with a client, I book a 15-minute like check-in call with them where they can share what's going on for them. And also I let them know, like, is it okay if I record this and ask you a few questions about your experience? And I ask them those same 4 questions, and then they answer those questions. I upload it into Descript, which is my editing platform, and I just edit out my voice, and I just merge their answers together into one narrative. And you can see examples
Love
of this
that.
on my website. Like, I have a whole page with just video testimonials, and it's it's so efficient. I mean, the call's 15 minutes, but we're usually done in about 10 minutes. And it's a great way to just check in with your clients too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a fantastic, like, such a smart business move because it's doing two really powerful things. It's giving you the proof of the transformative work that you just did with this client, but it's also giving your client, like, it's closing the loop on the work that you're doing together, but it's giving them this like sense of connection and like empowerment. And there's just this other level of
Mhm.
service by you hopping
Yeah.
on that extra call with them, showing that you care, that you're
Yes.
really interested
Yes.
in their transformation, not just in the fact that they paid you for work and
Right.
now they're gone. Like, that's
Right.
not what it's about. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, I think as humans, sometimes we forget the headway that we've made and the accomplishments that we've achieved. And
Mhm.
so what a great way to kind of wrap up the engagement, for them to remind themselves of the struggle that they had before, and now that they're on the other side of that struggle and they're
Yeah.
truly the hero of their own story. But they're really getting to remember that fresh in their mind about how far
Mhm.
they've come.
Yeah. No, it's really, really smart. And it's such a great way to celebrate the success that, or that transition that has happened, because there was a quote that I saw recently, and it was something like, we're never actually feeling the full like excitement and celebration of our success and the things we achieve because we're constantly setting new benchmarks for ourselves, setting new goals, so we forget about the old goals. We're like, yeah, I
Right.
did that already, but we
Yeah.
don't celebrate it. And so I think this is
Yeah.
such a smart way to get what you need as a business owner, but to really help the client celebrate those things, because you're so
Mhm.
right. It can be so hard for them to see all of the change that has happened, especially if they're maybe not the one doing the work. They're only seeing, the client facing side of things, not really the
Mhm.
back end of their business sometimes.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it's such a great way to help them get a full
Mm.
perspective and a full view of their own business as well.
Yeah. It'd be fun to do like a Venn diagram or some kind of visual of like all the things that happen with this one 10-minute call, because
Yeah.
now my brain's going and I'm like, you know what else happens is that you as the business owner get a boost of confidence and a reminder for how powerful and effective your work is. I mean, the strategic the unintentional byproduct of this is that I get to be witnessing like that,
Mhm.
the effectiveness of the work that I do, and that keeps my momentum going and keeps me really excited about the work that I'm doing. And so it's just the ripple effect. It's
Yeah.
endless, right?
Yeah. No, this is getting me really excited about integrating proof of my work into my business model, because it honestly hasn't been. And it,
Mhm.
like I mentioned, I mean, I'm not afraid to admit, like, I don't run my business perfectly. And that is
Mhm.
absolutely a place that I am falling short,
Yeah,
which, personally, I don't feel like I'm falling short because I see those text messages, but
right.
nobody else is seeing
Yeah,
them. And
right.
so figuring out a way to really do it in a way that's like elegant and makes sense,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
also highlighting, like, for me, I love highlighting my clients' businesses. And when I just redid my website about a month or two ago, I
Mhm.
decided to actually utilize my clients' businesses as part of my like brand
Mm.
story, because that's
Mhm.
how my business is evolving. And so
Mhm.
it's been really great to be able to be like, well, so and so was looking to do this, and so go check out their site. And so it's like this
Yeah.
really symbiotic relationship between
Yes.
promoting and selling my business while also showcasing the work I'm doing and the incredible work that my clients are doing.
Totally.
Being
No,
able to
that's
do both is just so
beautiful.
rewarding.
It totally is. No, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, like, we talked about a story driven website, but in that, it's not just the words we say, right? It's also
Yes.
the design that we present. So
Yes.
what's the power behind that story driven design element?
Yes. Yeah, I'm a big, big believer, and I know we're both aligned in like design and the power of design. Our brains process visuals and images so much faster than we process words. And so when you take the time to really have a story driven website and make sure your words are intentional and powerful and effective, when you marry that with visuals that are aligned with and really bringing to life those words, um, you kind of pour gas on the fire with your website's effectiveness. So, whether it's images, photos that you use, certain icons that you use, whether it's the way you treat your typography, I I I believe that, not everybody has the budget to hire a professional
Yeah.
designer to design their site. There are ways and design principles that you can integrate that don't require you to be a designer.
Mhm.
One of them that I talk about in the book is just using only two fonts on your website. So pick only two fonts, don't use any other fonts, and just
Mhm.
stick to those two. And then the other thing, that this is one that really happens so often, and it's like the easiest way to up level your website is just to pick three font sizes. You have a headline font size, you have a subhead font size, and you have a body copy or a paragraph font size.
Yeah.
And let's just say it's like 25 for the headlines, 20 for the subhead, and 17 for the body font. If you just keep to those three sizes, your whole website is going to elevate. I
Yeah.
will tell you, majority of the websites I look at have like, I don't know, 18, 20, 25 different font sizes, and our eyes really crave simplicity and order.
Mhm.
And most importantly, our brains and our eyes crave a guide. Like, we want to know that you've done the work to refine your website so my eye knows exactly where to go. Where do you want
Yeah.
my eye to go? Tell me, show me. Don't make me figure it out myself. So our eyes know that headlines are the most important thing. If we want to dig in a little deeper, we do the subhead. And then if we're really into like the content, we read the paragraph copy. But that's a great way for your website to really feel just very clean,
Mhm.
um, and professional.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I think that when I first was getting into website design, I was of the idea, make it anything you want, as exciting as you want. But the more I've started to do design work and really refine what I'm doing and my own craft, I have absolutely come to the conclusion that simpler is always better.
Mhm,
Repurposing an image in multiple places, never
mhm,
going to lose,
mhm.
because people aren't going to see every single page of your website.
Right.
Also, repurpose the copy. People aren't going to, when they didn't
Yeah.
read the paragraph on page
Mhm.
1, guess what? They might be reading the paragraph on page
Yeah.
3. Like,
They don't read your website like they do a book, right?
no.
They don't go from page to page to page. And so, and often like I won't necessarily repeat the exact text, but I'll strum the same notes over and
Exactly.
over, right? And you just keep kind of banging on that same drum over and over,
Mhm.
because people need to hear things 8 times before they can actually commit it to memory and absorb it. And
Mhm.
so it does like it's actually less work for you. You can kind of hone in on your core, the core things that you want to communicate, and then keep kind of strumming that chord over and
Yeah.
over again.
I love that you mentioned the typography because that I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yeah.
Two different fonts, same sizes, and the way you want to use it the same way.
Mhm.
And I'll add to that, make sure that it also is mobile friendly, because
Oh,
if you
yeah.
have a size 25 headline on the desktop, looks beautiful. Size
Yeah.
25 on a mobile phone looks crazy. Um, you know what I mean? So
Totally.
like,
Yes.
and that's something that I've really been
Yeah.
diving into a lot
Mhm.
lately with my podcast episodes and my
Yeah.
messaging, is really getting people to understand like the
Mhm.
responsiveness of your website
Yes.
can
Yeah.
absolutely be a
Yeah.
win for your business, or will
Yeah.
drive people away faster than
Uh,
anything.
yes,
So,
I have a whole section in the book on mobile first design. And those cloud builders that we've talked about will automatically convert that for you, but that is not a science. Like that
yeah.
will they kind of like they do their best first pass at it, but it's really your job to go back in and literally look at your website on a mobile,
Hmm.
on a smartphone, and then go through and edit it little by little to make sure it's converting, because most people now are looking at your website on a mobile device. And not only that, they're taking it and they're scrolling through this fast.
Yeah.
So that's why everything has got to be concise and clear. No one's going to read long bodies of text. Your
Hmm.
fonts have to be really legible. Like they can't be too huge, they can't be too tiny. And it's your job to really ensure that wherever they experience your website design, that it's that they can digest it easily. I talk in the book a little bit about story driven design, thinking of it as like a musical score when you watch a movie, right? If it's done well, you don't notice it. It's there. It's like amplifying the emotions. It's creating some tension. It's like it's taking us on a journey and we don't even know because we're so enthralled with the story. And that's
Hmm.
really the role of your design, is when it's done well, people aren't consciously aware of it. They just know it feels good, and
Hmm.
they know that they really like they get what you're trying to say. And so that's how I like to think about it.
No, that's an incredible analogy, because when you say, "Well, what does your website feel like?" I think sometimes that can fall flat as a question, because people are like, "I don't know. I mean, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?" Like,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that was a great analogy, because it is so true. You're watching a movie, the music starts, and you're like, "Wow, that's how I'm feeling right
Yeah.
now," and the music's actually reflecting the dun
Yeah.
dun dun, or the, oh,
Yeah.
something joyous,
Yeah.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
conveying exactly what you're feeling in the moment without you having to prompt that to happen. And yeah, I
Right.
so agree with the
Right.
website design. It's, as you're scrolling, you find yourself going, wow, okay, i'm
Mhm.
I'm in this. It's like it's
Mhm.
grabbed me in a
Yes.
way that makes me want to just keep, like, it's like looking at an open house. You go to an open house and you walk through, you're in the foyer and you're like, well, okay, let's check out room number 1. And you just keep going, and all of a sudden
Yes.
you're like, am I in the market to buy a house right now? I didn't think I was.
Now I am.
And now I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, and back to the movie analogy, like the script of the movie or the actor's dialogue is like the story that you're sharing. And we're so pulled into the story, but part of the reason we're so pulled into this story is because the design is supporting and in alignment with that story. The design is really bringing that story to life. And when you've got both the written words really clear and compelling, and you've got the design really aligned with the written narrative that you've crafted, that's when you really bubble up to the top of the internet. That's when you stand out as a leader in your industry. That's when your website really starts to work like your top sales employee. It's incredibly powerful, and almost no one's doing both of those things together. Yeah.
I know. And not to mention the confidence that it instills in you as a business owner. That you can
Yes.
confidently and excitedly send someone to your website,
Yes.
knowing that if they decide to book a call, they're going to do it. If they want to buy something, they totally can. Like having that level of confidence in your website, knowing it can do that heavy lifting is huge. So
It's
huge.
so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about like the importance of a website, or how powerful a website can be to really capture potential clients. And when it's done really well, of course it does that, right? That's our priority. But it's secretly repelling the wrong fit clients, right? So, which is as important. We all know what it's like to get on calls or multiple calls and waste our precious time and energy on people that are kicking tires, not ready, or not aligned with what you do, are not at a phase of business where they're even ready to invest in what you offer. And so it can really allow us as the business owner to protect our time and to attract those right fit. And they identify by being on the website, yes, I am the right fit here, or they don't identify, which is also as important.
Yeah, no, I've absolutely found myself on a site somewhat recently, and it was some sort of like merchandise site, but the way it was set up, I found myself literally saying, I was like, not for me. I thought, maybe I saw an Instagram ad or something and I clicked into it. I don't remember the scenario, but sometimes I find myself down the rabbit hole and I'm like, this is really good. And then more times than not, I find myself down the rabbit hole going, never mind. Let's climb out the rabbit hole.
Right. Well, and it's interesting. It's an interesting point, especially when that kind of thing happens on Instagram, which I fall victim to that all the time. Like the ads are compelling. They're visually beautiful. The messaging's on target, and they've obviously invested in this ad. But there's a disconnect between what the ad showed up as, and then you go to the actual website, and it's almost like you're at a totally different company. It didn't carry through. It's not cohesive. It's not consistent. And that's the other thing that really, taking a story-driven approach to what you do is beautiful, because you do that foundational work on your website and you get it really dialed in and your story is compelling, and then you get to repurpose that story everywhere. So it allows everything you do to really be consistent, and it's actually less work.
Yeah. Make the website the sun that your business revolves around. So smart. So in addition to all of this like really, really good stuff that we've been talking about today, there's other topics in Kris's first book, in her book that's about to launch, From Click to Client, where she's talking about like how to really uncover your unique brand story, why your website might be turning people away. Like her books dig into all of this, and then commanding like a premium price point, all of these things. So if these are questions that you guys are having for your own business, absolutely visit Kris's website, reddoorstories.com. When is your new book launching? When can we look for this?
It will be available within the next couple of weeks. It's done, and we're creating the audio version of it too, for all those people like me that like to digest.
I love an audio book.
Me too. Audible. I'm happily paying them $15 a month for all my books.
So true. I've got a backlog of credits right now.
I know. It's the best feeling. Like, yes, I can.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so in the next couple weeks, I would say the best thing to do would be to go to my website and just sign up to be notified when it comes out. And then you can choose, do you want to download it? You want to buy it on Amazon, or do you want to listen to the audio? And that would be at reddoordesigns.com/book. It's reddoordesigns.com/book. You can get on the wait list for the book. I also have a brand new lead cast or private podcast that just came out this week that I would love to share with you guys. You can check that out. It's 8 episodes that really get deep into the meat, a lot of what we talked about today, and then really expanding on that. So that can be found at reddoordesigns.com/profit-stories. And yeah, if you're interested in working together, you can just go to my website and click on the blue button, which is book a money-making messaging call with me. And we'll do a free call. We'll talk about your business, where you want to be, and we'll look at your website together. And I can really help diagnose what's working in your story. Where do you need things tuned up? And so it's really a valuable call.
Oh, I love it. We'll put the links in the show notes for you guys, so it's super easy to get to. And I know I will be on the lookout for sure. I'm going to go sign up for your wait list because I would absolutely love to listen or read. I mean, I love an old school paperback, honestly. So good. But I mean, there's nothing like being able to just throw in some earbuds and go for a walk and listen to a really great book. So
right.
I'll be looking to download from Click to Client. And of course, you guys, check out her podcast, From Click to Client, where she's got some really incredible conversations. And I will be on the lookout for your book and visiting your site and just get inspired. I hope these episodes are just inspiring people. Anything you want to close us out with?
Oh, I feel like we covered a lot of territory. As always, I just love our conversations, and I'm really, really grateful to be here with you and your people today.
Absolutely. Well, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Go connect with Kris. Get to looking at her website. As you're listening to this episode, you can be looking at other websites and really kind of digging in. Is this website doing this thing? If you don't have your own yet, get some ideas. And I would highly encourage you to start really looking for these kinds of things when you're looking at other people's businesses and the work that they're doing, because it's only going to help inspire you. So
yes. Oh, one thing before we hop off, if you guys are interested, I'm happy to share that email testimonial script that I use to gather testimonials from my clients. And then I use that same script for video testimonials. So I'm happy to share that with your audience, and we can put that in the show notes. I'm going to just share it with you today. It'll be at reddoordesigns.com/script.
Perfect. I think that's amazing. And that would be such a fabulous resource. We'll add all of it to the show notes. There's going to be so many good things to really go take action on from today's episode. So I love it. Well, Kris, thank you so much for being here. And I know that From Click to Client is just going to go bananas. It's such fantastic information that business owners are just craving these days. So congrats on all of the success and everything that's to come.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening to Branded, the podcast. Please rate and review. And for more information, visit socialjanemedia.com. I'll see you soon.